You know it's probably a good time to consider buying a sporty hatchback when the country's leading car maker decides to make one. Maruti has a pedigree when it comes to making fuel-efficient, reliable and cheap-to-run cars, but for its first performance hatch, the company has for once let the fuel economy figure, 21.4 kpl, take a back seat in the brochure. But power is right at the forefront. It's called the Baleno RS and it uses a new 1.0-litre, 3-cylinder, direct injection, turbocharged petrol motor that makes 102 horsepower and 150 Nm of torque. At first, the numbers seem a bit underwhelming, but factor in the car's light 950 kg curb weight, and it starts to make sense. Lighter than the competition it is, but you'd be surprised to know that the RS weighs 60 kg more than its normal petrol equivalent. Of course, the new engine is heavier, but Maruti tells us that much of this extra mass is a result of chassis strengthening. Still, that makes for a power-to-weight ratio of 107 horsepower per ton. And Maruti claims the suspension's now 10% stiffer too. But you won't be able to appreciate any of this until you drive the Baleno RS. What you will, however, are the subtle styling changes. To go with the sporty image, there's a revised grille, and different bumpers at the front and rear. The latter looks particularly aggressive. And then the blacked-out headlamps, side skirts and the RS badge distinguish it from the regular car. Inside the cabin, though, nothing's changed. You get the automatic climate control, 7.0-inch touchscreen with navigation, Apple CarPlay and all the other standard infotainment features. Unfortunately, some low-rent buttons and plastics too have made their way into the RS, which is a letdown. The front seats, like the stock car, are large and comfortable with soft cushioning and generous under-thigh support, although we'd have liked a little more lateral support in a sporty car like this, and it is the same story in the back, where the ample legroom and wide bench give enough room for 3 adults. All in all then, Maruti has found a good middle ground between performance and practicality, but it could have focused a bit to make the interior different from the stock car and thrown in a few more RS bits, maybe? What's it like to drive? Maruti has done a good job with the Baleno RS's 1.0-litre petrol engine. It may be slightly detuned from the European version to cope with poor fuel quality around India, but it still feels sufficient, if not ample. There's some turbo lag, but power builds up from a lowly 1,600 revolutions per minute, and once you cross 2,000 revolutions per minute, the engine spins quickly all the way to its 6,200 revolutions per minute limiter. The sweet spot of this engine is between 3,000 revolutions per minute and 5,000 revolutions per minute. As it gets past 5,000 revolutions per minute, this motor tends to get boomy. There is an ever-present noise as you climb the rev range, as this is a 3-cylinder motor after all, but rather than a gruff clatter, it's a pleasant thrum that adds quite a lot for character. The 5-speed manual gearbox feels a little firmer to shift than in the standard car, but it's not to the point of discomfort and instead gives shifts a slightly more reassuring feel. The suspension's been stiffened on this one, and that's given the car a bit more stability at speed, although the Bud International Circuit, where we've driven it, is hardly the best place to evaluate this, or indeed other everyday driving characteristics. The car also turns a bit more willingly into corners, and handling on the whole has improved a bit. What adds to this feel is the steering, which now feels a touch heavier and gives you more confidence. It's still not bristling with feedback though. The brakes on this car are great, no doubt helped by the addition of discs at the rear. Despite repeated hard braking sessions on the racetrack, there was only minimal fade felt. On the perimeter road that we drove, the ride was good. However, it remains to be seen how it takes sharper and bigger bumps experienced in the city. Should I buy one? The Baleno RS won't disappoint if you are looking for a slightly quicker family hatchback. There's enough performance and the car even feels better to drive than the standard petrol version. But it doesn't feel like an all-out performance car. Perhaps, Maruti should have just called it the Baleno 1.0 Boosterjet as it's called abroad. The RS badge is a bit misleading, raising your expectations higher than the car can deliver, and, at Rs 1.4 lakh more than the standard petrol, it's quite a budget stretch too. So, what you pay for is the punchy turbo engine, slightly stiffer chassis and improved steering and suspension, and our sources tell us that all Balenos will get the stiffer chassis soon anyway. In conclusion, the Baleno RS is a great range topper for the premium hatchbacks lineup. Just don't go expecting hot hatch thrills.